What is it that makes a liquid worth more than gold? Is it the decades of silence spent in a darkened cellar? Is it the specific chalky soil of a small corner of France? Or is it the sheer weight of history pressed into every drop? Today, we call it the King of Brandies. It is a symbol of hip-hop royalty, Napoleonic ambition, and the pinnacle of French craftsmanship. But before it was a global icon of luxury, it was a desperate solution to a merchant's problem. This is the story of Cognac, a journey from the muddy banks of the Charente River to the most exclusive bars in the world. To understand Cognac, we must travel back to the 12th century. The region of Charente, in southwest France, was not famous for spirits back then. It was famous for salt. The river was a bustling highway for Dutch, English, and Scandinavian merchants who came for the white gold of the salt marshes. To fill the remaining space on their ships, these merchants began buying the local wines. However, there was a problem. The wine from the Charente was thin, acidic, and low in alcohol. It was, frankly, mediocre. By the time these wine casks reached the cold ports of Amsterdam or London, the rocking of the ships and the changes in temperature had turned the wine into vinegar. It was a logistical nightmare. In the 16th century, the Dutch, ever the innovators of trade, introduced a solution. They brought with them small, portable cooling systems and heating elements. They began burning the wine, a process they called times brandewine, or burnt wine. By distilling the wine, they removed the water, concentrated the alcohol, and made it much cheaper to transport. The plan was simple: ship the concentrated spirit and add water back to it once it reached its destination to reconstitute the wine. But something unexpected happened. People began to realize that the burnt wine actually tasted better than the original product. As the 1600s dawned, the people of the Cognac region took this Dutch invention and refined it with French elegance. They moved beyond simple distillation to something revolutionary: double distillation. Legend tells us of the Chevalier de la Croix Marron, a pious man who supposedly had a dream that the devil was trying to boil his soul. In the dream, the devil failed the first time, so he tried to boil him again. The Chevalier awoke with a flash of inspiration. If you distill the wine twice, you capture only the purest soul of the spirit. While the legend is charming, the reality was a technical breakthrough. By using the times alembic charentaise, times a specific type of copper pot, still with a characteristic onion-shaped dome, producers could isolate the heart of the spirit, leaving behind the impurities of the heads and tails. This second distillation created an times eau de vie, a water of life that was crystal clear, incredibly potent, and aromatically complex. But the final piece of the puzzle, the element that would turn a harsh spirit into a luxury good, was discovered by accident. During various wars and trade delays, casks of this times eau de vie times were left sitting in warehouses for years. When the merchants finally opened them, they found the liquid had transformed. It was no longer clear. It had soaked up the golden hues of the oak barrels. The harsh bite had mellowed into notes of vanilla, spice, and dried fruit. The world of Cognac as we know it was born. This era saw the birth of the great dynasties. In 1715, a young man from Jersey named Jean Martel arrived in Cognac, founding the oldest of the major houses. He focused on the Borderies region, known for its floral and elegant notes. 50 years later, an Irishman named Richard Hennessy, an officer in Louis XV's army, saw the potential of the spirit and founded his own house in 1765. These men weren't just distillers, they were visionaries who understood that Cognac was not just a drink, but a brand. They began exporting to the royal courts of Europe, to the newly formed United States, and as far as the Qing dynasty in China. By the mid-19th century, Cognac was the undisputed spirit of the global elite. However, at the height of its Victorian glory, the industry faced an apocalypse. In the 1870s, a microscopic stowaway arrived from North America, Phylloxera vastatrix. This tiny aphid attacked the roots of the French vines, and within years, it had wiped out nearly 85% of the vineyards in the Charente. The landscape of Cognac was turned into a graveyard of withered wood, production plummeted, and many of the smaller houses vanished forever. The recovery took decades, It required a Herculean effort of grafting French vines onto American rootstocks, which were resistant to the pest. But this crisis also forced a fundamental change in the product itself. Before the blight, Cognac was primarily made from the Fol Blanche grape. Afterward, the region transitioned to the more resilient Ugni Blanc, which today makes up 98% of all Cognac production. Out of this devastation came a need for protection. If Cognac was to survive and maintain its luxury status, it couldn't just be any brandy made anywhere. In 1909, the French government stepped in to define the boundaries of the region. This was the birth of the Times Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée, Times AOC for Cognac. They mapped out the 6 unique crus, or growing zones, based on the quality of the soil. From the chalky, prestigious soils of Grande Champagne and Petite Champagne to the heavier clays of the Framboise, the law ensured that the name Cognac could only be used for spirits produced within this specific terroir, using specific methods. It was no longer just a commodity, it was a protected piece of French heritage. This legal framework turned Cognac into a fortress of quality, ensuring that every bottle, whether consumed in a London club or a New York lounge, met a standard of excellence that had been forged through centuries of trial, error, and survival. But how exactly does a sour green grape become this complex velvet liquid? To understand the true magic of Cognac, we have to look closer at the process, a process where science meets alchemy, and where the most important ingredient isn't the grape or the copper, but time itself. It begins not in a bottle, but in the white, chalky soil of the Charente. To the untrained eye, this earth looks parched, almost barren, but to a viticulturist, it is gold. This is the terroir, a word the French use to describe the soul of a place, encompassing soil, climate, and topography. Within the Cognac region, there are 6 distinct crus, or growth areas, arranged like a bullseye. At the very center lies Grande Champagne, not to be confused with the sparkling wine region to the north, followed by Petite Champagne, Borderies, Fins Bois, Bon Bois, and Bois Ordinaires. Each layer adds a different note to the symphony. The champagnes offer finesse and floral elegance that requires decades of aging, while the Borderies provide a nutty, violet-infused roundness. Interestingly, the grapes used for the world's most luxurious spirit are remarkably unremarkable as a table wine. Over 98% of Cognac is made from the Ugni Blanc grape. If you were to pour a glass of the base wine before it is distilled, you would find it thin, remarkably tart, and low in alcohol, barely 8 or 9%. It is a wine that most would find unpleasant to drink. Yet, it is precisely this high acidity and low alcohol that makes it the perfect canvas for distillation. The acidity preserves the wine naturally, without the need for sulfur, which is strictly forbidden in Cognac production. And the low alcohol means the flavors must be concentrated through the fire, resulting in a more intense and aromatic spirit. Once the harvest is gathered in October, the grapes are pressed, and the juice is fermented for about 2 weeks using natural yeasts. What emerges is a cloudy, acidic liquid. Now, the transformation begins. This is the Charente copper pot still, an iconic shape that has remained virtually unchanged for centuries. The design is a masterpiece of functional beauty, a characteristic onion shape that allows for the perfect reflux of vapors. In Cognac, the law mandates a double distillation process, known as a repas. The first distillation produces the brouillis, a liquid with an alcohol content of about 30%, but it is the second distillation, the times bon chauffe, where the real magic happens. The distiller must act as a sensory gatekeeper. As the liquid boils, the vapors rise, condense, and trickle out. The first part to emerge is the heads high in alcohol, but full of harsh, unwanted impurities. These are discarded or recycled. Then comes the heart, the crystal clear times eau de vie. This is the essence of the grape, vibrant and full of fruit and floral aromas. Finally, the tails appear, heavy and oily, which are also set aside. Only the heart, at roughly 70% alcohol, is destined to become cognac. This process is slow, meticulous, and must be completed by the stroke of midnight on March 31st each year, marking the end of the distillation season. From the fire of the still, the times eau de vie times enters the silence of the cellar. It is here that it meets its second parent, the oak. By law, cognac must be aged in French oak, typically from the Limousin or Trancé forests. These barrels are not merely containers, they are living lungs. The wood is porous, allowing the spirit to breathe, inhaling oxygen and exhaling alcohol. Over years and decades, the clear spirit leaches tannins, vanillin, and color from the wood, transforming from a fiery water into a deep amber nectar. But there is a price for this transformation. Each year, approximately 2% of the liquid evaporates through the wood. The locals call this the part des anges, the angel's share. It sounds poetic, but the scale is staggering. Every year, the equivalent of more than 20 million bottles of cognac simply vanishes into the French sky. This evaporation is also responsible for the black fungus, Torula campaniacensis, that coats the walls of the aging cellars in the town of Cognac, a visual signature that tells passers-by that liquid gold is maturing behind those stone walls. As the years pass, the cognac is moved from new barrels to older, exhausted barrels to slow down the wood influence. Eventually, when it reaches its peak, it is moved into large glass demijohns called dames jeunesse to stop the aging process entirely. But a bottle of cognac is rarely the product of a single barrel. It is a masterpiece of assembly. This is the domain of the times, maître de chai, or master blender. The master blender is a guardian of time. Their job is to smell and taste thousands of times eau de vie times to create a consistent blend that matches the house style year after year. They are blending history, taking a component from 10 years ago, another from 30, and perhaps a splash of a reserve stock that was distilled by their grandfather. When you see the classifications on a bottle, you are seeing the minimum age of the youngest spirit in that blend. VS, very special, is aged at least 2 years. VSOP, very superior old pale, at least 4, and XO extra old, which recently had its requirement raised to 10 years. Today, cognac has transcended its origins as a regional French brandy to become a global symbol of prestige and art de vivre. In the 20th century, its path to luxury was cemented by its popularity in the United Kingdom and later, a massive surge in the United States. A unique cultural phenomenon occurred in the late 1990s and early 2000s, as cognac became deeply embedded in American hip-hop culture. Mentioned in lyrics and featured in music videos, brands like Hennessy, Remy Martin, and Courvoisier became synonymous with success and the hustle. This wasn't just marketing, it was a genuine cultural adoption that introduced a centuries-old French spirit to a new, younger, and incredibly influential audience. Simultaneously, in Asia, particularly China, cognac became the ultimate gift of respect and status. In high-end banquets from Shanghai to Guangzhou, a bottle of Louis XIII or Richard Hennessy isn't just a drink, it's a statement of power and lineage. Today, the Big Four houses Hennessy, Martell, Remy Martin, and Courvoisier dominate the market, but there is a growing movement of grower cognacs and smaller houses like Hein or Delimont that cater to the connoisseur seeking specific terroirs and vintage expressions. As we look to the future, cognac faces new challenges. Climate change is shifting the harvest dates and altering the acidity of the grapes. The industry is responding with sustainable viticulture and even experimenting with new grape varieties that can withstand a warming world without losing that essential Charentaise character. But despite the changes in technology or the shifts in global markets, the essence of cognac remains the same. It is a drink that cannot be rushed. You cannot disrupt the aging process of a 30-year-old XO. It requires patience, a respect for the earth, and a willingness to let the angels take their share. Whether you enjoy it neat in a crystal snifter, over a large block of ice, or as the backbone of a classic sidecar cocktail, every drop of cognac contains a piece of French history. It is the story of a humble grape that survived wars and plagues to become the world's most celebrated spirit. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Are you a fan of the bold, fruit-forward VSOPs? Or do you prefer the deep, rancio-heavy complexity of an old XO? And which spirit history should we dive into next? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the Charente, Please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of luxury spirits. For more on the art of French craftsmanship, check out our video on the history of champagne or the secrets of the world's most expensive wines. Until next time, drink less, but drink better. Cheers.